Tene tanga dele Chogyam tene tanda cerdo ngaranzo doji chungdu me sonde dembe kapso tene jipela matanti la tepatan mugu ji te ta so atapte ngaranzo je nyamne cheba te ne la mbata parchi tang jengi menjung manlam dawo ya puja 대견도 ngaranzu nyamni nawa te senji kulmu number tabi zisenba naroji.
Good morning, everyone. And as we chant the short Vajradhara lineage prayer, please have great faith and devotion in the root and lineage lamas, and please make this special aspiration that our meditation, that our practice will really hit the point, and that we will have no difficulties or no problems in doing it. And so please recite this prayer with bodhicitta, with a great pure aspiration.
The earth is perfumed with scented water and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun, and the moon. Imagining this as the Buddha realm, I offer it so that all beings may enjoy that pure realm. In accordance with the capabilities and the diverse aspirations of sentient beings, I ask you to turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater, lesser, or conventional vehicles.
Tene ta kasen kentu le ta tanda jerdo te la kuslai jogam kapso luni ta semni ni ge na ne semji ni ge onda se na tene ta ti zawa karisong yore se na depe ji miki maung ben dai masu Tati tekara tamalji hipa jembe taindo zochu yonju me par hombab su ya sunki te ta zore la tini te la che mixal ke zochu nrabo kanya matang wa te ta teka la nyambra yapa yimpechina kuslo te tumi ge go ne gambare la ta te la nyam je chargo la kare khage yore sena tene salle wale shige jene yepate tene te koran tene ngama song namba tabu te la kogi yore la tene te tabu lupa nyambra yago pe junsin te kandire sena ngaranzo gom te kandire sena gom de lu zochu tang sardu zupati mahimba Sam Koran Rang Netan Machu Pate La Ta Tandang Aransu Chulbu Kapsala Chunhong Mambo Hyargi Yoret Netsul Manuru Wa Koran Netan Te Tandakari Yabate Salbur Hibate La Kogi Yore La Salbur Hibate La Kogi Yore
Picking up from where we left off yesterday, we've been talking about the resting meditation of a kusulu. And during this discussion of the resting meditation of the kusulu, there are the points of the body, the points of the mind. And in terms of the points of the mind, the real crux of the matter, the real important point is that we should, it says here, don't pursue the past and don't invite the future. Simply rest naturally in the naked, ordinary mind of the immediate present without trying to correct or replace it. And so here we don't need to do anything to the mind. We don't need to alter it in any way. There's no particular way that we need to change it. We just rest. We just simply rest directly upon that. So when we talk about a kusulu, we talk about someone who has a very simple, unelaborate way of life. And so that's what we need here. We just need to rest without changing our experience. And what we experience at that point are the characteristics we talked about yesterday. It'll be clear and expansive, vivid and naked. And so at that point, the mind does not stop. The appearances do not stop. And so we just rest loose in this. And so we're just resting loose in this. What is the reason for just resting loose in this? Well, the reason is that when we do our meditation, it's not something where we change our body in some way and then make our mind, make something new happen in our mind. That's not what we're doing. Rather, we just let our mind rest as it is, in the way the mind normally is, without changing it in any way, not altering it in any way. Of course, we have all sorts of, because of our confusions, we have all sorts of confused appearances that do arise. But when we are sitting in meditation, rather we just sit in the nature of it as it is. We just need to clearly know the nature as it is.
Tene ta tela ya certo deni suma tsama impa tanda tene ngaranzo tenju go on de sena jitla maknan to suma ta tene te yendo suma doje tipi jigo on de sena jiba dorji tapani ba kanan to song yo la ndela salsa chen me yapara chawa chungzi me yonda nyela yonda ta se ta senji nelu de la zochu hira majena yang takpa ta korang ngo tomba ranghin salwa ta pechinani song dangwa ga kapsula song de pige netan te sen korang la yore te yang takpa re yang takpa nila yang takpa ta se yongda nila yongda ta se yang takpa te korang kari yeba te la yang takpa ta yongda tona number 12 sunwa re la yang takpa ke netang te yang takpa la ta na korang la zochu hira ma se korang ke netang te yeba yin samne ngupu drup yaba yo ma yin pa mepa yin samne tombal ga yaba yo ma yin pa Koran kari yeba sem ge netang te la nom to ge jesun ro yo ma imba ta sem koran ngo kanre yemba ti tendo nyambar yo na yong ta ba de tong gre la yong ta ba de tong na yong da tong na number 12 si te 12 wa de yong ge yo re te la te ne ta chun le 12 wa de Trunonto Niemobali Turwati Yungio La Tini teacher na Tini Naranzo Sanji Netang Tend Teka Nyambarigaba Mato Ndella Salza Jim Mes Tini Salza Ponja Pa Gani Nda Tony Nda Ngupo Madrubari Nda Ngumi Resine Goyayata Pangaya Kanya Yomare La Drupar Chawa Yapar Chawa Junzi me Ya Titen the Chang Yomare, the Yapore, the Salwari, the Ngupores in the Duguyata, Yaguya Kanya Yomare, Sanji Netante, Chitang Chunik Netante, Jurame by Imbadla, Tinani Mixal to Tutu Comaton Chichita, Mangola Tene, Sanjung Ola Tayung Capsula, Sanjung O Te. Tela Zobju Tani Zomaimba, Korang Netan Yapo, Hipati in Bicherna, Tiniti, Tat Tintomati, Sale, Gene, Rigawati, and so on.
In other instructions, it also mentions this. In terms of the treatises, there's the great treatise, the Supreme Continuum, or in Sanskrit it's called the Mahayana Uttara Tantra Shastra, or the Ratnagarbha Vigbhaga. And also in the secret mantra Vajrayana, in the Tantra of the glorious Hevajra in 2 books. This is said as, in this there is nothing to dispel, nor anything at all to add, by viewing rightness rightly and by seeing rightly liberation. So in this there's nothing to dispel, not anything at all to add, by viewing rightness rightly and by seeing rightly liberation. And so what this means is that we don't need to change our mind in any way. We don't need to alter or do anything to our mind. We just need to see it rightly, see the rightness. We need to see the empty essence of that. And then that essence here is naturally clear. And so this is what is said in these treatises. This is what is said in the this is what is said in all the instructions from the great practitioners. We just need to look at what is in the mind and see it rightly, see it correctly. When we see it rightly, when we look at it rightly, that means that we're looking it as it is. We're looking at the rightness as it is, and we're seeing it rightly. And that rightness is the way things are. So we're looking at that rightness that is the way things are rightly. And when we do that, we're not changing it in any ways. We're not saying, oh, this is something that exists. This is something that I need to make into emptiness. This is something that is a thing now that shouldn't be there. That's not what it is. Nor is it something where we think, oh, this is just nothing, and I need to make it into something. It's not anything like that. Rather, we just look at the essence of the mind and we rest evenly in the essence of the mind. So we see the rightness rightly. And when we look at the rightness and see the rightness rightly, then we can come to liberation. And so here, and so if we do that, we will be freed, we will be liberated from all of the confused appearances and all of the afflictions. And so this is just resting evenly in the way that the nature of the mind is. And so it also says, in this there's nothing to dispel. And so when we say in this there's nothing to dispel, there's nothing that we need to get rid of. We need to think, oh, this is empty, this is a thing, it should be nothing. There's nothing like that. We don't need to do that. Nor is it a question where in this, nor anything at all to add. So in this, there's nothing to add. We don't need to think, well, it's empty now, but I need to have something, so I'm going to make it into some sort of thing. That's not what we need to do. It's just what it is that we have, what it is that is there. The essence of the mind, the essence of Dharma nature is unchanging. And since it is unchanging, this is something that since it is unchanging, all of the great practitioners of the past in their oral instructions have said that when we practice, we don't need to change the nature of our mind. There's nothing to alter there. We just need to come to know the nature as it is well. And so when we see that, that is what we call this clear and expansive, vivid and awake.
Tene ta tela ya ta kasingarang hubare hine dong hondong ni le chepar yore hine ke kasala semde tembur ne pa ji ma to tela misal ke hirap yo mare la tene hondong le hirap yore sumare hubare la hondong le hirap yo pa te ya tene hondong la tene jerdo hirap jitang ke hirap la tūpi hirab, sambi hirab, gambi hirab, namba som yorela. Ti nani tū samgi hirab de kashiti, tene jiba la tene hibige, tenki namba la hirabige, tene loje la gogi yore. Loje la tene ndare, mari sambige, lo salcha yobaje la gogi yorela. Tini tanda hongtong kaso ti hirab di yore bisina ti hirab di mari la ta wana kandi hira yung yore sina gongjung hirab jela tini gongjung ta tusong ki hirab nila chepra kare yore sina tini tusong ki hirab di lo tochi ji zubi jipa lamdu sibi hirab ji jipa di la tini nidu nenbege hirabjela kogi yaba jayta tene ganjung ge hirati tige namto ndabo hira meba ngusun tongge tene nyomnyong jela tene hirabse ganjung ge hirase ge yorela tene tige senji nelu de nguni senki korang ngo de nyamsu nyong sena kandi nyong ge yore sena yana ngubu nambala nyamsu nyong ge yore sena nyamsu nyong ge yomare yona tombe nambala nyangsi nyongi yore bisina nyangsi nyongi yo mare tomba yen yendo la jiyo madrupe tomba yinba tang jiyo madrupe tomba yinba de la teni sarcha yihijin namba sena yenda salwege cha sartong songdun juba teni ti jiyo mepa pemtong ma yinbe sarcha tang denbege tene sarchatan demba sarcha ngo de rangin ki tomba imba ta tinde ge nambala ngone nyomsu nyone ta ti sente tinde jindo tinde jire sambata tin ndu sambati loizo ge yore de yena ya ti loizo ma imba ta ti nyomsu nyone gambatela gamjung tang ngansam lamdu si hirap ti ge kitin the dream meba not tami neba mahimba teacher na ta tel hirap ngus nyons nyoya ji yorela teacher na ta ti taindo nyambari ga yore
Yesterday we discussed the tranquility meditation and insight meditation. The distinction between the two is that when we are doing tranquility meditation, we have a lot of stability, but we do not particularly have a lot of wisdom or full knowing, you could say. We don't have a lot of full knowing, a lot of discrimination, or prajna is the Sanskrit word. We don't have a lot of this full knowing. Whereas when we are doing insight meditation, we do have a lot of the full knowing, the good understanding, full knowing of what's going on. So there is that full knowing, and when we talk about full knowing in general, there are three different types of full knowing. There's the full knowing that comes from listening, the full knowing that comes from contemplating, and the full knowing, or prajna, that comes from meditation. And so when we talk about the full knowing or prajna that comes out of listening and contemplating, this is full knowing that is directed outwards. It is directed outwards, it is dependent upon inference. And so this is just conceptual understanding of the, what we call in Dharma speak, we call it the meaning generality, the sort of a generalized idea, or I think Bill was saying similitude the other day. That's a good one. The sort of a similitude of what it is. It's sort of thinking, oh, that's what it is. But it's a thought. And so it's a concept. And so when we have this when we have insight meditation, is this the sort of full knowing that we have? It's not this type. We do not have that sort of full knowing. So what sort of full knowing, what sort of prajna do we have when we are meditating? We have the full knowing that is born out of meditation. Now, the distinction between the full knowing that is born out of meditation and the full knowing that's born out of listening and contemplation is that the full knowing born out of listening is a conceptual. It's conceptual knowing, and it's based upon inference. It's sort of thinking, this is it because of the reason, so it's probably like this. It's that sort of a thought about it. Whereas when we have the full knowing born of meditation, then there are no thoughts. It's not as if we're actually at that point, we're actually seeing. We're actually experiencing it. So that actual seeing, the actual experience, that is what we call this full knowing that is born of meditation. And so we are experiencing the nature of the mind. We're experiencing its essence. And when we experience our essence, is it a situation where we are experiencing it as some sort of a thing? That's not the experience that we have. Or is it an experience when or do we experience it as emptiness? We don't experience it as emptiness. So it is empty, but while being empty, while just being nothing at all, not able to be something that you cannot prove to be anything at all. While being that, there is the clear aspect. You could call it the aspect of wisdom. There is this clear part to it. It is the union of the clarity and emptiness. It is not just blank nothingness. It has this clear part to it. But the essence of that clear part is emptiness. And so that is what we really actually experience at this point. And so we experience about it. And if we thought about it, we'd say, oh, that's what mind is. This is what mind is. Now, of course, when we say, oh, that's what mind is, that is a thought that is made up by the mind. And when we're actually experiencing it, we don't have that sort of thought. But this is the experience that we have. This is the full knowing that is born out of meditation, that is born out of directly seeing the nature as it is. When we directly see the nature as it is, it's not as if there's just nothingness, blankness, and blackness. That's not how it is. Rather, we experience this full knowing. We experience the wisdom. And within this experience, we rest evenly within that.
Tene ta tela ta tetabu gombe kapso la ta nyon anda bo te kande ji yong yo de sena ta dintro ni so la te ye du so zu da so chena ye do nyombe to ba yong me eno na tang ji manga par no se ta ti kapsula zu ta da da terroriza yurji number 10 zo chela yori sombe nom to rakpan da bo ji yori be sene yo mare ti yena ya teni ti ngondo gre be sena ta ti tingen zenje nyomnyo ti ji be kapsula mege yo do zu mton na we yo do dam tu ba na yo do trim so ba ta tinde yung gre be sene yung mare no na tangji manga par no tene mege zo tongre nawe datu gre nai tsor gre yig number to pa yo ga yo mare sarcha yo re manga par no se ta ti ge chiruji yul chuji number yo shargi yo re ta ti che yulji number ta no yujin ge number ge on de sena yujin chodu ge hiba na na ye nyombe to pa yo me la 다 랑 set 다 데치로지 요르 디 싱킹게 히바데 낭나 요아레 선반다고지 소두기 히바 나나 예 냠베 또바요 메 딘디게 넘버 또바요 요 마레라 엥고 나나 살라 또바메 리바 짐바데 망가세 Tene ga song ribesina ta tika sola nong number hiba chu tubo de chasang ga do ribesina ga ga mare make number hibi ge zo yon zo talking ge make number hiba yorela datung king na number hiba yore tetsun king yore sanjin chargo yorela tene ta te teacher na nang number hiba chi yulji number chi yultu nang number hiba tru di chasang koram manga par yore te heb de chena ta tan de heb de chena indra ma chena indra tenga ge yo mare la tini te la engo na na salla topa meba riba jamba ta na sai som yore salla se du number hiba tsu tu de chasang salbo yore tene make zug munthongwa chayo mar nawe dam thuba chayo mar nai tramasurwa chayo mar senji song tong mihiba chayo mar donda bo chayo mar sal teacher na salware salwa rete yinayo topa rapa yore besini yo mare la dendo dendre make ta zo yabon thong do nawe danda tu do sombe number topa rapa yo mepa ta tela riba segre ripa jemba te ta te khora ye shup ndabo ta partan ndabo hita me pa teka la kan ye pa te manga se du teni te ge me pa chung yo mare ta pe na ngarang ko lawa se du do ndabo cha yo mare se ge ore la teni ta te chi yurji no manga pa to non senji non senji sarcha manga pa ta te de yong yo re.
When we are doing this meditation, what is the experience that we have? Well, to pick up where we were in the text, it says, this is in the middle of page 4, at the same time, there is no thought of sights and sounds are out there. Everything appears without obstruction, or you could also say everything appears unceasingly, without ceasing. So at that time that we are there, there are the external things. We don't think, oh, they are out there. There are no thoughts thinking, oh, there's something out there. But does this mean that it just everything stops, that it's all ceasing? But it does not like that. At that time, we have the experience of our samadhi meditation. And when we are in the samadhi, then at that point, is it a situation where our eye doesn't see anything? Or does it mean that our ears don't hear anything, or our noses don't smell anything? That's not how it is. At that point, the eye can see forms. The ear can hear the sounds. The nose can smell scents. And one moment. Dila Rinpoche dila ne de mangape kaso dila de mangapa nang shepe kaso de namto de so yigi number shepe and namto de gagyo ma.
Yigi number hiba yung gagyo marete. Yina topa raba yo ma.
Topa raba ni topa tawa de topa yunas.
Topa tawa sina ya tati namto rabo che che yo marete. Yina ya yigi song to mi hiba jia me ban rabo chaw yo ma.
So the mind, I'll start back a moment. So the eye does not see any forms. The eye does still see forms. The ear hears sounds, and the nose can smell scents. And the mind consciousness also does not stop. Although there are not any coarse thoughts, it's not like it just becomes nothingness at all. So it is unceasing. That is what is in this translation called without obstruction, but it could be literally said unceasing. It does not stop. And so the external objects do arise. They do happen. And so these are the external objects. And then we have the internal perceiver, the internal subject who perceiving subject. And there is also no thought of the perceiver. The 6 types of consciousness is within. Clear and non-conceptual naked awareness is unceasing. So the perceiver, the 6 types of consciousness is within. We aren't thinking, at this point, when all of the external objects do appear, we don't think, oh, there are these 6 consciousnesses that are perceiving them. We don't think, oh, there's an I consciousness. My eye is perceiving something. We don't think that. We don't think in that way. Clear and non-conceptual naked awareness is unceasing. So at that point, does everything just stop? Does just everything just stop at that point? Do the 6 consciousnesses stop? At that point, does the mind stop? There is with the mind, does the mind consciousness stop seeing form? Does the ear consciousness stop hearing sound? And does the mind just completely stop? They don't just stop, and that is why the internal perceiving subject and the external objects, they just don't stop. If we look at it, whether we look at it very carefully in a lot of detail or not, basically the mind just does not stop at that point. When we are seeing things still appear to us, we don't become like rocks. And so at this point, clear and non-conceptual naked awareness is unceasing. And so here it is said that it is clear. So the 6 consciousnesses are clear. They have this clear aspect. They don't stop. It's not as if we become unseeing, unhearing, unsmelling. It's not as if we do not have a mind anymore. At that point, it's not to make it easy. I often say that we don't become just like some sort of rock with no thought at all. That's not how it is. Rather, there is the clarity. There are no coarse thoughts. We're not thinking to ourselves, oh, that's what that is. There's no thought of that. But even though but it doesn't stop. So there are no thoughts at that point. And this is what we call awareness. And this awareness is clear. It has this clear part, and so it does not stop in anymore. And so at that point, we say that we don't become we don't really become stones at that point. We don't become nothingness. We can still know. And so the external objects and the internal mind, the clarity of the internal mind do not stop. And this is the experience that we will have.
Tene tate tanda tat semje chorwanda boda nyomnyonda boda tati sarchanda boda tati ndi yore si songarela tati menche ge karitengi yore sena tige tini yentinda boda sungi yorela tini tige tela lungo yi somje yentin tati tetabu gombe pen gupa ta junsinda boda sungi yorela tati gombe kapso lula chorwa kandi yungi yore nga la kandi yungi yore teni sem la kandi yungi yore so te na ni tambo lula te na lu ma ju tamal to dembole shige yabate tati nyambar yab kasala lu de la teni drim ne be dam ne teni kyuni mambu zogi warvesina mare machu tamalto teni rangin ke chorwan de yape kapsala teni madeva khaya me be dembole shige yapate teni jalwa thamchi jeko teni ta tandang aran so senje nelu ngon thong yendo ne pa imbe cherna teni yiram jalai cherem ngus gongi yorevesena yiram jalai cherem ngus gongi yo mare te yinaya ta cherem je ngo te khandi jiresena cherem je ngo te teni ta ti ge sem je nelu chu tam ji nelu je tawa yindo top ngo je yimbe cherna teni cherem je nimbo yin jalwatam ji jiko ta ti ne tang ti lu te ta ne pa ti jalwatam ji jiko cherem ji nibo yin tene jerem ge zo de nyam ta de ge chuni ji ne lu je ta wa yin do to pa gu pa ta je ba yin bi ne jerem ji nim bo yin ta ti kap so la lu tra se le po ya ba je ma to mixal ge jerem gam ba yo ma de de na jerem ge nim bo ta bi yin de lu ji pe 다 니바데 ngok pen 다 티캅슬라 ngok 마주버 산라 공전 탐지 바상메 버 테카르 샤라라히나 다테가 테카도 찌마제바 더두니니 더통 제와메바 찹들든두 번데 자와 탐지 송 데바 탐지 님보yen 송아rel라 다티 ngotenya 마주 바다텔 농도 만다와 요준다보다 콜노마다 발라소바 마임바 산라 공전 탐지 다티 게차 마주 바 루바다보 테는 ngok고니 바사메 버테커 샤라라 다티 셈진 네루 쳇타와 옌도 또베 냠뇽동 제 옌도 다 게차티 히나 tenin kecha de hebe kapsula dra de khara tsi ma je ba da kan khani thog do hidra ha ma go wanda thodu ni ne thotong je wa ma ba tenin dra de thog yo de yin na ya dra thak ba de khana thog do khande thog do te na tho yin do la tong ba tong yin do la tho dra thak ba je wa ma ba chabdal dun du ban da ten khanga la chita ma ju ba 루바리 가반데 자와 탐지 송 데바 탐지 님보이 무스 뭐 다기 요아르베스나 뭐 다기 요 마레 요요 마레티 이나요 뭐 데비기 님보데 칸데레세나 센지 네루 감바타 추니기 네루 추니기 네루 토비 히체퍼진 제위가 답이 있으나 데바 탐지 님보다데 뭐 마데나에 데바 치바 치바이
So up to this point, we have been talking about the feelings that arise in our mind, the experience that arise in our mind. This is telling us what the clear aspect of our mind is like. And then following this, it teaches us about the qualities of this. It teaches about the qualities, the benefits. What are the qualities and benefits and purpose of doing this? How does it help our body? How does it help our speech? How does it help our mind? What are the qualities of the body, speech, and mind? So what are the benefits and the purposes of doing this meditation? Now, when we are doing this sort of meditation, what is the feeling that we have in our body? What is our speech like? What happens in our mind at that point? First here it talks about what happens with our body. While in that state, your body is left to itself without fabrication, free and easy. And so when we are resting easily here, this is not a place where we tighten up our body and we try to change it or alter it in some way. That's not what we do. Rather, here we just let it rest, left to itself without fabrication. We don't need to do anything to it. We don't need to alter it. And so we just let the feelings, whatever feelings happen, whatever happen. And when that happens, our body becomes very free and easy, very relaxed, very nice and free, very comfortable. There's no discomfort at all at that point. That is the body of all the victorious ones. That is the essence of the development stage. And so when we are seeing the nature of the mind, when we're seeing the essence of the mind, because we're seeing those at this point, are we actually doing the creation phase or the development phase of visualizing a deity? We're not actually doing that. But the essence of the creation phase is that it is a way to realize the nature of our mind. It is a way to realize the way all dharmas are, to realize the dharma nature. And so for that reason, this is the essence of the development phase. And so that this is the body of all the victorious ones, and it is the essence of the development stage. And in saying here, when we talk about the development stage, development stage is a way for us to realize what the Dharma nature is, to realize what it is. Now here we just rest the body loose, relaxed. We are not practicing the development stage per se. However, this is the essence of the development stage, and so these are the benefits of this in terms of our body. Secondly, it talks about the benefits in terms of our speech. Your speech is free from fabrication, without efforts to track down the root of sound, but simply expressing directly and openly whatever comes to mind. It is all pervasive from the very moment of being heard, a non-arising empty resounding. That is the speech of all the victorious ones. It is the essence of all realization. And so we don't alter our speech in any way. We don't change our speech. And when we speak while seeing the nature of the mind as it is, and we don't have any bad motivations or anything like that. We just let the speech come as it is, loose and relaxed. Whatever it is that comes to, that we need to say while we are experiencing the realization of the nature of the mind. So as we have that experience of the nature of the mind, then we have conversations with our speech. And at the time that we're having the conversations with our speech, we don't really know where is it that the sound comes from. We don't worry about where the sound comes from, how it happens. We aren't worrying about that point. The sound just appears. It just arises. We hear the sound. It resounds. And so at the same time as it resounds, it's while resounding, it is also empty, and while empty, it is arising. And so then it becomes all pervasive from the very moment of being heard, a non-arising, empty resounding. And so this is that is the speech of all the victorious ones, and it is the essence of all realization. So it is not here at this point. We are not actually reciting mantras. We don't recite the mantra at this point. However, the essence of a mantra is that it is a way to generate the wisdom that realizes the Dharma nature, that realizes the way our mind is. And that is why we meditate, or that is why we recite mantras. And here, although we are not actually reciting the mantra, this is like the essence of that mantra recitation.
Tene ta tejendo ta tanda de lu ngwa ni de la. Lu ngwa ni ki pen sem ji ne lu chatawa yindo to ne tingen se che par ji la ji yimbe ge kap che lu ji ne ta tene ngwa ge ne ta ta sem ji ne ta ga on de sen na sem la zangi gadu ga to pa che shar yon ma ju romba su le na se ta ni kap ka la tingen se gombe kap su la kap ka la zombu number to pa kap ka la ngembe number to kap ka la sen la gasur kap ka la dungal sen joge number la so pa to pa shar yon sigirel shar ka so la to pa che shar yon ti ji su man rong wa te ka ma ka pa te ni ma ju rong ba su ya ngma ge ma ju be ne lu ti tain do le na ti tain do le ni gom na te ni ti ka so la zambu ga ge number to ba ye che na yo te la che ga de ga me ba dungal ge number to ba che na yo rong ba so le na che du de du me be semni ta ti ge ngo la te na salwa tomba jemba rige namba duba se salwa sena ta konde che patardo la che ta donda bo mai wa tomba sena ngupo dendru tropo dembra tropo mai ba jemba sena tini ta ti te ci to ci sini palchir to la teni po de patabo ta yuldon yuchin ni po te to jangbo mai ba tene rang zo de tene rang ngo de rang nyams nyoin bi chena jemba shige sena tene te la sarcha tsani me pan tene je no thame wan da boda tene sarcha me pa tene tanda simu rong yin de song da bo mai ba salbur ndu banda tati na se ye yorela sal ton jemba shige Dubanda, Tati, Senite, Chasanji Gogior, the Sentin Tomji, Sanjirangi, that the Rang Sanjirangi, Sentin Yin Tonji Lion, Teta to Yopare, Teta Yaparella, Titi Sanjirangi, do some Sanji Gomba. Tene, do some Sanji Tamji Gomba, do some Jisonji Tamji Tampi, choosing to tell Tige, Sanje, Nelu, Manoroa, Mantrua, de Tobrasibic, top. So, temperance by Impicherna, do some Sanji Tamji Gomba, Chugo Jetri Yetonga, Nimbo, Tampi Chuji, go Jetri Yeton Suma Tamji, Nimbo. Renchu Paldin Lam Toes, Tarang, Zavela Matam Chijon, Tojan Mola, that data will be no cheaper, Jilla cheaper Zeba in Bichana. Renchu Paldin Lam Tui says in a Tangaran to Sorwata Pecasala, then Zavela Mato Jipela Matam Chich Tota, then a rang saying, ear me to say ne, Tatopa cheaper Jilla Chipata in Bicherna, Renchu Paldin Lam Tojan or Tavre.
These are the benefits of both the body and speech, and so then what are the benefits of the mind? At that point, when we realize the mind as it is, so there's the way that the body is, there is the way that the mind is, and then the mind, as far as how the mind is, what it says here is when you rest your mind in unfabricated naturalness, no matter what thought may arise, good or evil, happy or sad, the mind essence, which is free from concerns about joy or sorrow, is clear and empty, naked and awake. And so when we rest in this, when we are sitting in samadhi, at that point, it's possible that a good thought might arise or a bad thought might arise. It's possible that we might feel joy. It's possible that we might feel pain. It's possible that we might feel some sort of depression. It's possible that this might happen, but at that point we don't follow after the thought, nor do we try to stop it in any way, but rather we just go back to resting in the unfabricated naturalness just as we had been before, without altering in any way at all. We just rest as it is, loosely, relaxed, just rest, and then we meditate in that way. And so whether the thoughts that arise are about joy or whether they're about sorrow, whether they're good thoughts or whether they're bad thoughts, we don't worry about what they are. We just rest in the essence of the mind as it is. And as we rest in that mind, free from the concerns about joy or sorrow, empty or awake, we don't worry about any of that, then there are four characteristics. The mind is clear and empty, naked and awake. And so when we say that the mind is clear and empty, clear is as we were talking about before. The mind doesn't become just like some sort of unknowing rock. When we say that it is empty, clear and empty, and saying that it is empty, this means that it is not some sort of thing, not some sort of truly existing thing. Rather, it is empty. Then we say that it is naked and awake. And when we say naked here, that means that we aren't relying on some sort of a proof or some sort of a logic to say, oh, this is probably how it is. That's not what we're trying to do. Rather, we don't have any thought of there being some sort of object that's being perceived and then a perceiving subject. Rather, this is self-awareness. Self-awareness that is experiencing its own essence. Then we say that it is awake, or we can also say that it is vivid. Another translation would be vivid. This is talking about how it is clear. It is not, doesn't just become sort of blackness, darkness, unknowing at that point. That is not how it is. Nor at that point is there any dullness or fogginess in the mind at that point, but rather it is vivid. It is vivid and awake. And so in this way, there are these four different characteristics: that it is clear and empty, naked and awake. And we need to have the meditation that has all four of these types of characteristics. And this mind essence is the nature of all sentient beings. And so this mind essence that we have, this is the same as the mind. All sentient beings have this mind essence. We have this same mind essence too. It is the realization of the Buddhas of the three times. When the Buddhas of the three times taught all of the various different types of Dharma, they taught all of these types of Dharma as a way to realize what the nature of the mind is. And so in this way, this is the realization. This is the intent. This is what they meant when they made these teachings, is another way to translate. You could say, this is what all the Buddhas of the three times meant when they were saying all that they said. And so this is what they are trying to get at. And then it is the essence of the 84,000 Dharma doors. So it is the essence of all the 84,000 different types of Dharma that were taught. And it is the heart of the glorious Master, the Supreme Guide. And so this is the realization of the mind of the Master. It is the essence of that realization. It is the essence of that. And when we often talk about this in the instructions, it is said that we need to mix our minds with the mind of the Master. We need to have great devotion in the Master and the root and lineage Masters, and we need to then mix our minds with them. And so this is the essence of the mind, seeing that our mind essence is the same as that.
단다 살동 젬바 젬바 세두 제세나 제르보 라고 거기도 젬바 제세나 젬바 세두 벤나 살라든다 살라든다올레 다 살라드 쯔이가나 그때 줄차레 무요나 디 줄차레 조야 맞죠바 되니 무야 망어바 코라다가 뭐 젬바사 테텔라 주주르자니 마지바 텔라 나란츠 베기기나 젬바스기 와들라 테 젬바스기 텐데텔라 주주르 마지바 텔라 코나야 베 야포 테네 나란츠 센지 넬루 텔라 테 야포리존이 야조아요 마임파 두보레 똥바리존이 파조아요 마임파 코란 크리 야바티 티가랑 그고올라 냠바리 야바텔 콜레임.
There's a Tibetan word here that called jempa, and it's translated here as naked. In fact, most places you see it, it's translated as naked. But maybe you shouldn't translate it like that. Maybe you should think of it as being like salad. If you think about it like being salad, if you have salad. Salad, as in salad greens, a Caesar salad or something like that. Because if you take your salad, or your lettuce, I could just say, if you have your lettuce and you steam it in some way, then it changes, it gets all limp and mushy and all that. Or if you fry your lettuce, then it changes, and then it's no good. And so when you have your salad, you just have it as it is, uncooked. I suppose actually you could say that it's undressed. So you don't need to put your Caesar salad dressing on the salad. You don't need to put the balsamic vinaigrette on the salad. You just eat it as it is without any dressing. And so this is not something where we need to say, oh, we need to make it into something really good. We need to make it really great. Or we say, well, now we've got something, we've got to make it bad somehow. It's not anything like that. Just right as it is, leaving it exactly as it is.
Tene ta tetabu ta tanda nyamsu nyongwa ta tendeje soin sere terin tetsam shuna marve. Tene jiva salit sa.
So that is the sort of experience that we need to have. And so it's probably enough for today, and it's about time to go eat some salad. So